après je mélangerai avec de l'anglais.
Et puis moi, quand il y aura un stop, je...
¿Estamos ya? Sí, hola, buenos días y bienvenidos. Soy Fernando Baselga de Videocine Import, el distribuidor oficial de Angenie en España. Gracias por asistir a esta presentación de los Optimo Primes de Angenie junto con WeLab y gracias a EFTI por dejarnos hacerla en este espacio. Dejo la palabra a Benoît Brice-Montier, que es el responsable comercial de Angenie en el mercado español.
Hola, gracias. Buenos días, bienvenidos a todos. No sé si hace falta hablar con este o cuál va bien. Bueno, entonces soy Benoît Brice-Montier, trabajo por Angenie desde unos 10 años ya y estoy encargado de la marca Angenie por España y otros países. Gracias a la invitación de WeLab, primero, que está haciendo un evento para presentaros la nueva gama de Optimo Primes que hemos lanzado hace 2 años ya y que estamos entregando desde unos meses. Vamos a ir un poco más en la idea general de las ópticas y luego vamos a ir más en el detalle con el apoyo de Jean-Yves, que es como el director artístico de la marca, que ha rodado como 30 años en sets como DOP, entonces conoce muy bien el tema de la imagen y vamos a tratar de enseñaros lo que se puede hacer con esas ópticas sin filtros que tenemos y con filtros que son maneras de dar unos sabores distintos. Vamos a ir en la presentación rápido, luego irá Pedro y luego Jean-Yves. Entonces hablamos de una familia de óptica que se llama Optimo Primes, son 12 ópticas. Primero hay que decir que Angenie es famoso desde más de 80 años por hacer sobre todo zooms. Me imagino que sobre todo la gente asocia Angenie con ópticas zooms, pero la verdad es que hemos hecho ópticas fijas hasta los años 50 de cine y de foto, y lo hemos parado por otros temas y nos concentramos en las ópticas zooms hasta el 2018, en cual hemos anunciado otra vez ópticas fijas, porque era tiempo con el full frame que estaba llegando a volver en este mercado. Entonces ahora tenemos ópticas fijas con zooms. Tenemos un sistema completo. Los Optimo Primes son una familia de 2 ópticas. No voy a ir, me parece que vais a leer un poco en la pantalla, pero vamos del 18 al 200. Son ópticas totalmente nuevas, no son ópticas de foto que hemos rediseñado por ser adaptada al cine. Son totalmente nuevas, con mecánica y diseño óptico totalmente nuevo, hecho por el cine. Tenemos ópticas que tienen el look Angenie, el look óptimo, es decir, muy dulce con las caras, muy suave y con una suavidad que a la gente le gusta mucho por los sets, porque es muy agradable. No tiene una resolución muy fuerte y eso se ve en la gama óptimo de manera general, desde el zoom 24-290 hasta estas series de óptimo fijas. Son full frame, por supuesto, eso lo había dicho. Bueno, eso es solo para decir que ya hemos entregado bastante ópticas ya y que en España ya hay 4 juegos ya entregados. WeLab tiene 1, hay más y vamos a entregar más. Estamos llegando al punto de que entregamos el set entero. Entonces ahora si alguien quiere puede rodar con las 12 ópticas. Si encuentra una casa de alquiler que las tiene todas. Bueno, esas son las especificaciones. No voy a ir mucho en el detalle, pero la cosa que saber es que son muy ligeras, muy pequeñas, que son optimizadas por ser lo más fácil de utilizar. Van casi todas, entre las 12 hay 9 que tienen un T1.8, aparte del 18, de la focal 18 que es un T2 y el 200 que lleva un T2.2. Entonces son 10 que tienen el mismo T-stop. Pero por supuesto están todas aquí, entonces se pueden ver fácilmente. Bueno, eso es una cosa un poco de marketing, pero sí, se dice que son muy buenas, que son muy fuertes, que son muy robustas y que son ópticas en cual se puede confiar para 15, 20 años fácilmente. Es lo bueno de las ópticas, es que una óptica se puede utilizar durante 15, 20, 30 años, aún más, porque no solo es vidrio, no hay cosa digital adentro, entonces es una inversión que tarda por muchos años. Tienen las metadata, por supuesto, tienen una rotación de 320 degrees en el foco, que es mucho, es decir, que puede ser muy preciso cuando hace foco. Y por supuesto, se puede cambiar el anillo de metro a pies muy fácilmente, que siempre no es lo mismo. Bueno, eso nos sirve mucho. Y el tema de hoy es esto, es el Integrated Optical Palette, que llamamos el IOP. Entonces, vamos a ir mucho en este tema con Pedro y luego con Jean-Yves. Se trata de una cosa que es bastante única, es que esas ópticas, aparte de ser muy buenas, muy robustas y llevando este look óptimo que le encanta a muchos directores de fotografía, dan una opción de personalización que es única, es decir, que se puede elegir su propio look según lo que quiere un DOP, es decir, que un DOP va a querer algo más suave, más dulce, con más flare, con más efectos un poco raros. Es decir, que ahora tenemos la opción de personalizar esas ópticas tocando tres partes de la óptica, es decir, que se podrá cambiar el diafragma. El diafragma nativamente lleva 9 palas, pero podremos ir a cambiar el diafragma por 3 palas o por un diafragma ovalado. Además, se puede cambiar el filtro interno que está aquí adentro de la óptica. No hablamos de un filtro que está enfrente o atrás, hablamos de un filtro interno que tiene bastante ventajas y esto lo va a comentar Jean-Yves luego. Es decir, que se permite abrir la óptica por adelante y cambiar un filtro interno que es parte del diseño óptico por un filtro que lleva más efectos. Y es algo bastante único, bastante nuevo y que da muchas opciones. Y también se puede cambiar este diafragma. Por supuesto, esa cosa no se hay que hacer en el set, se tiene que hacer por la casa de alquiler, por los técnicos que están aquí. El DOP, la idea es que el DOP va a llamar a la casa de alquiler una semana o 2 días antes del rodaje diciendo, bueno, yo voy a elegir este look, por favor, prepárame las ópticas para que yo pueda ir en el rodaje ya puesto. Eso es la idea. La idea no es cambiar las ópticas en el set porque no se puede y es peligroso y es un poco técnico. Tardamos como 10-15 minutos por cada óptica. Y ya, entonces es un poco la idea general. Si, por supuesto, vamos a ir más adelante. Si está bien, doy el micro a mi amigo Pedro. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Sí, puedes ponerme la siguiente. Gracias. Ok, con vuestro permiso, pues muchísimas gracias por estar aquí. La verdad es que ya teníamos ganas de volver a hacer este tipo de eventos, de presentaciones, de talleres. Estamos volviendo a hacerlos. Sabéis, quienes nos conocéis, que está en nuestro ADN, que nos encanta. Así que muchísimas gracias por asistir. Como os han presentado anteriormente, Fernando de Videocine es el distribuidor, ellos son los fabricantes y nosotros pues somos de los... ¿Con este es suficiente? Ay, perdón, venga, gracias. Y nosotros pues os ponemos, digamos, ya desde el mes de junio incluso, que empezaron a llegar las lentes, tenemos un juego de 6, ahora ya tenemos 9 y estamos esperando, bueno, pues que sigan viniendo el resto. Las tenemos ya para ofrecer, para todos vosotros. Y una cosa que me gusta hacer, con vuestro permiso, antes de continuar, os voy a dejar la lente, tratarlo con cuidado, la vais pasando, porque estamos hablando de ellas, pero que la sintáis, ¿de acuerdo? A la vez que voy haciendo la presentación os voy a estar mirando de reojo, así que cuidado con ella. Vale. Ok. Bueno, pues bueno, mientras la recuperamos, cuento un poquito de lo que quiero hablar. A ver, os quiero comentar un poco sobre estas lentes, porque dos conceptos principalmente. La esencia de la propia lente y lo especial de la lente, ¿de acuerdo? La esencia de la lente es muy sencillo, es el propio look ingenier de la lente, ¿no? Es decir, como adelantaba mi compañero, si conseguimos que vaya bien, ahora que igual le he dado muy fuerte, sin hablar de la paleta, que es un inventazo, es una cosa muy positiva, es una cosa muy novedosa en esta lente, sin hablar de la paleta, solamente la lente de por sí ya es una lente cañera, es una lente especial, es una lente que para ser full frame es pequeña, ligera, es muy luminosa, 1.8, tiene ese look ingenier de más de 70 años de tradición, de historia, de desarrollo, ¿vale? Machea perfectamente con el resto de zoom y bueno, nos permite rodar en full frame, por supuesto, pero también en Super 35. Luego, sin mencionar para nada la paleta óptica, de por sí la lente es muy top. Ya la hemos estado utilizando, hemos rodado un largometraje, estamos haciendo algo de publi y ahora se van todas nuestras lentes a rodar otro largometraje más a Canarias. Y de momento, como digo, sin paleta, aunque ya es una realidad. Y esto configura pues, el ecosistema completo de lentes que ya nos ofrece Ingenier, que como sabéis y todo el mundo sabe, pues es un fabricante principalmente de zoom estupendo, ¿vale? Que ha complementado juegos de lentes, por ejemplo, Cook, es decir, por la similitud en cuanto al microcontraste, lo orgánico de la imagen, se suele complementar, ¿no? Un juego de S4, S7 con zoom Ingenier. Pues bien, ahora no hace falta que necesariamente sea así, por supuesto, cada uno rueda con lo que quiere, pero ahora ya tenemos este ecosistema completo, lentes fijas que puedo complementar con un zoom Ingenier, full frame o Super 35, o rodar con zoom, que los hay, y muy buenos, de hecho ahora hay una serie nueva, la Ultra Compact, y puedo complementar con lentes prime, con lo cual de por sí el concepto de esencia lo tenemos, es decir, es una lente muy top, ¿vale? En la liga de Arri, de Zeiss, de Cook y de Leigh, es decir, en primera división. Eso no nos queda claro. Hay hasta 12 focales, no voy a repetir lo que ha dicho Benoit, ¿vale? Tenemos una gama muy amplia, ¿vale? Es decir, estamos cubiertos. Y ahora os quería hablar de lo especial de estas lentes, que es precisamente la paleta, ¿vale? La paleta óptica. ¿Qué es esto de la paleta? Bueno, es un sistema de paleta óptica integrada. Y esto es, pues, similitud directa con la paleta de un pintor. Un pintor tiene una paleta con una serie de colores, una serie de texturas y va a pintar su cuadro de acuerdo pues a una serie de herramientas distintas, lo cual va a hacer su cuadro de una manera mucho más personalizada, mucho más customizada para él, para lo que quiera. Es decir, va a hacer un cuadro único, un lienzo exclusivo. Por eso, digo, una lente fija de un determinado look de cualquier marca nos va a dar eso. Con Ingenier ahora nos va a dar mucho más. Y aquí os está dando un poder a los directores de fotografía, creativos y directores enorme. Os está dando de nuevo todo el poder. Podéis personalizar y hacer vuestro esa lente, ese look. ¿De acuerdo? ¿Y cómo? Pues con una serie de opciones muy interesantes, ¿vale? Es decir, esta infografía que hemos desarrollado nosotros la tenéis disponible al final de la presentación con un código QR, la tenéis también al principio podéis descargarla y en cualquier caso en nuestra página willasplus.com, donde subimos muchísimo contenido generado propio pues, para vosotros, para compartir. Pues bien, vamos a ir un poquito por partes. Ya siento este parpadeo, a ver si es... Vale. Por un lado, digamos, características comunes, como digo, el stop 1.8 para todas las lentes, excepto para el 200 y el 18, los extremos, ¿vale? Cubre 46,3 milímetros de diagonal, por lo tanto es full frame. De hecho, vamos a probar montadas en RAS Monstro, que es uno de los sensores más grandes que el full frame, incluso, el VistaVision, y no es que aguante, es que lo cubre perfectamente. Es montura PL, el diámetro frontal es un diámetro de 95, que es un diámetro que está muy bien, muy pequeño, muy liviano, adaptado a la gran mayoría de clipones, accesorios, parasoles. Y importante también, pues tiene metadatos, ¿vale? Que lo hace pues, una lente muy interesante para rodar en producción virtual, que es un poco una tecnología que se viene ahora, o todo tipo de efectos, ¿vale? Con lo cual, solamente con esto, la esencia de la lente ya es una lente muy top, ¿vale? ¿Qué nos vamos a encontrar? ¿Qué es lo primero que podemos personalizar? la parte trasera, ¿vale? Aquí la manipulación es muy sencilla, nosotros podemos hacerlo, es un filtro rosca, ¿vale? Que depende la focal, ¿vale? Puede ser de 46 o, no recuerdo la cifra, 40,5, perdón, de diámetro. Y estos son filtros que podéis encontrar prácticamente en cualquier tienda de fotografía, incluso encontrar y manipularlos, podéis rayarlos, podéis pintarlos para jugar con ese look en la parte trasera de la lente. Otra cosa es que sea el look o el efecto que necesitáis para un proyecto u otro, pero como podéis hacerlo. Ya os están dando una posibilidad infinita de opciones. La otra, muy interesante, y esto no se ha visto antes, es poder cambiar, ¿vale? Digamos el iris, ¿vale? El iris propio de la lente. Y aquí tenemos tres opciones por el momento. Hay que extraer un bloque óptico trasero de la lente e intercambiar el iris. El estándar es el de 9 hojas, ¿vale? Que es el que nos daría un look más clásico de Ingenieur, ¿vale? Es decir, el que podría machear más a la perfección con los zoom. Ese es el que viene de serie, el que tenéis de hecho en la lente que estáis pasando entre vosotros. Luego tenemos un iris que sería el triangular, que nos recuerda, como dice ahí, a un look más sesentero. ¿Por qué? Entre otras cosas porque en los 60 teníamos unas lentes que eran las Super Speed 1.4 con un diafragma triangular en aperturas pequeñas, ¿vale? O sea, abierto. Pues nos va a recordar perfectamente a eso. Lo podemos utilizar, es verdad que es un efecto muy icónico, digamos, quizá un tanto exagerado, lo podemos utilizar para videoclip, para musicales, para alguna publicidad, algún comercial así más potente, por supuesto, para un largometraje o derivadas secuencias en el que se quiera recrear una ensoñación o algún efecto, como queramos, es una opción, ¿vale?, que nos lo está ofreciendo esta lente desde ya, con lo cual ya tenemos otra opción más en nuestra paleta óptica, ¿vale?, en similitud con la paleta del pintor vamos a poder trabajar. Tenemos también una opción muy interesante que es el ovalado, es decir, un iris ovalado en una lente esférica para rodar con lente esférica y un efecto anamórfico, ¿vale? Es muy interesante porque, entre otras cosas, las lentes esféricas suelen ser más livianas, más fáciles de trabajar que una lente anamórfica. En cualquier caso, es un look más que me está permitiendo esta lente. Con lo cual, tres combinaciones de iris y más configuraciones más si manipulo, digamos, la IOP en los filtros internos de la lente. Y por el momento tengo 4 opciones. Digo por el momento porque esto va en continuo desarrollo. Oye, de momento Ingenieur nos está ofreciendo esto. Hace unos meses nos ofrecía una opción menos, ¿vale? Y ahora ya tenemos hasta 4. La primera de ellas es el filtro Clear. Es un filtro Clear que introducimos en mitad de la lente, que es Clear completamente, y que lo positivo de este es que yo voy a poder manipular. Es un filtro relativamente económico dentro de los filtros, y digo económico porque puedo rayarlo, puedo pintarlo, puedo jugar con él, y aquí la expresividad es la que quiera, ¿vale? Vamos, puedo hacer absolutamente lo que quiera. Con lo cual, bueno, puedo pintar, puedo lacarlo, puedo poner vaselina, puedo hacer miles de opciones. Luego tenemos otro que es el Uncoated, ¿vale?, para recrearme, digamos, un efecto en mi lente mucho más vintage, en el que voy a exagerar los destellos, voy a exagerar los flares, ¿vale? Esto es una cosa que ya se viene haciendo, digamos, en otras lentes, sobre todo en elementos frontales y traseros, ¿vale?, como las Cooke S4 Uncoated o las Supreme Radiant, aunque el Supreme Radiant y Supreme normales se hace de formas diferentes, ¿vale?, pero aquí voy a poder elegir que esa lente de forma interna sea Uncoated, y lo hace realmente interesante. De hecho, la próxima producción grande que vamos a hacer, si no me equivoco, creo que van a elegir darlo con los elementos Uncoated metidos en mitad de la lente. Otra opción más que me permite en mi paleta de filtro interno, el filtro Blue Streak, que como muchos ya conocéis es un filtro, digamos, con unas líneas azules, digamos, paralelas, que me van a colorear el flare y me van a exagerar el flare que mi imagen produce. Y esto, en combinación con el iris ovalado, pues voy a tener, imaginaros, una similitud, un acercamiento más al mundo anamórfico que si fuera, digamos, individual. Es decir, estos dos filtros casi siempre van un poco de la mano. Esto que os cuento ahora en teoría lo vamos a ver ahora, que es lo interesante, lo vais a comprobar ahora, con lo cual es un poco para avanzar. Y por último, faltaría un filtro más, que es el Net Optic, que lo que me va a hacer es bajar un poco el contraste de la lente. 4 opciones más que sumadas a las 3 de diafragma y a las traseras, pues se multiplica un poco todas estas opciones que tenemos. Y esto es decir que realmente, de algún modo, aquellos rental o aquellas empresas grandes que se pueden permitir tener un departamento óptico in-house, nosotros a través de nuestro compañero Julio Gómez ya lo tenemos, podemos manipular determinados cristales de lentes, hacerlos uncoated o no. Esto quiero tratar de expresaros que es un poco habitual o que se puede hacer en cualquier tipo de lente, pero tienes que tener un departamento fuerte. Lo que hace Engineer con esto, desde mi punto de vista, es democratizar esto, es decir, gracias a esta tecnología, ahora ya podemos hacerlo cualquiera, ¿vale? Es decir, cualquiera podemos tener acceso a poder manipular la lente y jugar y llevar ese look a nuestro terreno y darnos ese poder, ¿vale? Y que cuando llegue a pospo esas imágenes estén lo más hechas posibles y no nos las puedan, digamos, manipular, ¿vale? Es decir, el efecto que quiero lo consigo aquí, lo consigo yo, pinto con mi lente, ¿vale? Con mi luz, con mi lente y con mi cámara, lo hago todo. ¿Requiere más conocimiento? Para eso estamos aquí, para transmitiros y para enseñaros. Para eso tenéis willasplus.com, porque mandamos mucha información y para eso pues podéis siempre llamarnos y hacer pruebas, ¿vale? Porque es verdad que vamos tan rápidos, se rueda tanto y tenemos tan poco tiempo que lo que nos falta es hacer prueba y error. Vale, continúo. Vale, a todo esto es importante, quizá lo hayáis visto en la lente, si os habéis fijado, al manipular tanto, porque bueno, tengo una serie de chivatos en la propia lente que es importante que indiquemos el correcto para saber qué diafragma tengo o qué filtro interno tengo. Quizá lo de diafragma sea muy obvio porque lo puedo ver, pero el filtro interno conviene marcar bien y ser muy cuidadoso en ese tema, ¿vale? Saber qué filtro tengo o no. Esto es una cosa que se hace lo hace el técnico óptico en el rental, ¿vale? Con una serie de herramientas que Engineer nos facilita, más herramientas propias. No es un proceso, digamos, súper complicado, pero requiere que se lo haga por esta persona, porque necesita experiencia, y no solamente experiencia en estas herramientas, sino la experiencia anterior y el backhouse que un óptico tiene, ¿no? Al trabajar con estos elementos. Hay que ser muy riguroso y hacer los cambios de una forma muy correcta y estudiada. Y no es algo que se pueda hacer en un set de rodaje, ¿no? No es, oye, cámbiame esta lente, cámbiame el diafragma, como si cambiaras un filtro. No, hombre, eso tampoco es, ¿vale? Es algo que tenemos que tener un poco estudiado. Quizás sí podamos tener parte del juego con unos filtros internos y parte de otro con otro. Por ejemplo, para un comercial de coches, ¿vale? En el que quiero tener los planos generales con un determinado look más vintage, pero el plano principal del coche, ¿vale? Lo quiero tener perfecto, súper limpio y bonito, ¿vale? Quizá ahí sí pueda elegir tener parte de mis lentes con una paleta u otra. Termino ya un poco diciendo que estas combinaciones se nos abre un abanico enorme de posibilidades, ¿vale? Que solamente si cruzo datos entre iris y digamos, y el de filtros internos o traseros, me salen hasta 20 combinaciones diferentes, y si encima tenemos en cuenta que con el clear o el filtro trasero a la vez puedo personalizar y seguir yo metiendo cañas o cristales, pues las opciones se multiplican. Es muy abrumador esto que os cuento, hay demasiadas lentes en el mercado, ¿vale? Y hay mucha tecnología que hay que saber escoger y cada vez tenéis más responsabilidad, pero desde luego si escogéis a Engineer, cogéis un caballo ganador porque es una lente que, como os estoy contando, nos da muchas opciones y nos permite llegar a muchos looks diferentes con un solo producto. Con esto acabo. Para quien sea bueno de vosotros y se quede hasta el final, os vamos a invitar a un pequeño catering, ¿vale? Para luego charlar. Si tenéis ruegos y preguntas, las podéis hacer luego después. Y ahora os dejo con realmente el maestro de ceremonias, que es el que nos lo va a enseñar y vamos a disfrutar aprendiendo, porque lo que os he contado, tanto Benoit como yo, lo vamos a ver en directo. Así que, adelante.
Va a hablar Jean-Yves. Ouais. Justo para decir los que Jean-Yves va a hablar inglés. Si a un punto viene que no es muy claro y no se entiende bien, solo levante las manos y Pedro o yo traduciremos, ¿vale?
So sorry for that, not to speak Spanish. I am Jean-Yves Le Poulain. I work in the company since 11 years. And I'm working with the crew of the development to develop all the lens that you can see with engineers. Of course, there are a lot of people around for developing the lenses and to develop lenses so since 11 years, mostly on zooms, as you know, in anamorphic, because I shoot quite a lot in anamorphic, and now with primes. So I shoot after a school of optics. I race for a national school, Louis Lumière, during 3 years to learn the cinematography, in fact. And after I start by the documentary during 2 years, and after the fiction films and commercial, probably as you, same life in all the steps, you know, from second to focus puller during 20 years. I love to work with DPs, in fact, more maybe than the rest. And so I shoot, I work on more than 60 feature film, 300 commercial, these kind of things. So you have my curriculum on IMDb. If you are interested, it will be a pleasure. I will give you my mail to answer you if you are interested in something very specific. So about the development of this lens, it is because of the digital. In fact, for the silver film, in fact, the technique didn't advance so quickly, you know. Every 7 years we have a new camera, which most of the time was not really a revolution. Now with digital, one of the first things is escaping the perf of the film. It changed everything. You have seen that the sensors are bigger and bigger and bigger. The size, we are not anymore on a ratio of 4 by 3, for example, you know, as a standard of the 35 millimeter. To escape the perforation, that is to say, it is to be more panoramic. To be more panoramic, that is to say, a few things, for example, about the anamorphic. That's why we are speaking about the iris, the oval of the bokeh of the anamorphic. To escape this perforation, that means that all the lens has to cover more, of course. As you know, it is one of the big deals. Each time you are choosing a lens, you are looking for the coverage and the sensor size. Else you can be, of course, in big trouble. And there is a new gymnastic about the choice of the lens and the camera that we didn't have at my period on the silver film, because we escaped the perforation. To have a ratio which is more panoramic, let's say there is only one camera which is 4 by 3, the rest is mostly in 1 by 9 on the ratio, that is to say very panoramic. It changed a lot of things, not only about the coverage, but about the resolution. When we were shooting in anamorphic, for example, it was because we were limited by the perforation of the film in 4 by 3. We wanted a little bit like this period, I mean the people to go to the movies and pay for the movies on a big screen. If you want a big picture in scope, which is specific to the screen, to the theaters, you have two things. You need to be panoramic. If you are in spherical, you are only working on 2 perf. That is to say, you are losing half the resolution of the film. But you want to make a film on the format scope, because the scope is a format and the anamorphic is a system, is an optical system. If you want to be very panoramic, and at the same time you want a big screen because you want the people go to the theater and don't stay in front of the TV, you need resolution. The only way in anamorphic is to use the maximum of the vertical of the picture and to use optical compression, call it the anamorphic, 2 times, to have all the picture into the 4x3 negative, in fact. With digital cameras, it's easier because you are more panoramic. On 1.9, so at this period, for the silver film, it was mostly a question of resolution, big screens. We need resolution and to use the maximum of the negative. On digital cameras, because you are mostly panoramic, 1.9 most of the time, 1.5 if you are shooting in full frame, that is to say that the resolution is more in spherical, in scope Super 35, than in anamorphic. So what's the point of the anamorphic? And of course, you know, you have the feeling of that, the anamorphic, it is because it's very strange. You have 2 focal lengths in one. So when you have a 100 millimeter, for example, you are 100 millimeter in vertical, and you are a 50 millimeter in horizontal. And this is this curious relation with 2 focal lengths that create this kind of perspective, which is very specific to the anamorphic. You see? So that's why the anamorphic is still going on, even if it is not anymore a question of resolution. You see? But at that time, because the focal length is a double, as a spherical one, that is to say that the dynamic of the shots is slower. You know that when we are using longer lens, we have the feeling that the movement is slower than with a spherical, classic spherical. So we have very light cameras, very light lenses. We have Steadicams. We have a lot of platform, very, very dynamic. And we have the discussion with John Borman about that. He said, I'm very in love with the anamorphic, but the point is that sometimes, because I need to be dynamic with a Steadicam or what else, to be on a 50 millimeter is less dynamic than to be on a 25. Because it is not anymore a question of resolution because of the size and the format of the sensor. You could match, in fact, if the lenses are matching from the anamorphic to the spherical, you could match, in fact, 2 pictures because about the resolution, and you couldn't do it with the silver film, it couldn't match. About the resolution, you can match spherical and anamorphic for dynamic reason. To use a lens which is 2 times shorter. You see? So it's a big deal. The only point is that the anamorphic, at the same time, there is a specific bokeh when you are in front anamorphic. That is, you know that the bokeh is oval. So if you want to match with a front anamorphic, you need to have a bokeh which is oval too. You see? That's why we propose for these lenses to change not only a few things about the contrast, I will be more precise in a few minutes, but to change the bokeh. Only way to change the bokeh is to change the iris. So this lens, one of the big things when you want to interfere with the bokeh, it is first to change the iris. Okay? I will go to the presentation unless I will not need anymore the presentation. Oui. On y est là. So, can you translate that maybe in Spanish?
Ok. Hablamos aquí de la idea general del IOP.
On n'a pas de...
No,
c'est là, pardon. Oui.
Que era la idea y el tema del IOP era primero conservar las calidades ópticas de las lentes, es decir, que no reducir la calidad y mantener la calidad muy alta y luego jugar con efectos con la imagen, pero que la imagen se quede muy fuerte y muy potente desde el principio.
That is to say, before developing anything, first it is the idea, like the word. we had a few laws that which we couldn't interfere with it. One of the first thing is to preserve the quality of the optical. As you know, and because it's a whole story, I mean, we don't sell the default. We really are proud to have new lenses with a quality which try not to be chirurgical. That is to say, very homogeneous and a good geometry for the lenses, a good resolution because the screens are bigger and bigger. And when you are in 4K, you are really in 4K on the screen, which was not the case with the silver film. It changed a lot of things. We have the special effects. That is to say, we need resolution, of course, and to be as flat as possible. And when you are using, when you have a lot of resolution, you don't need to be very contrasty. This is our discussion 2 minutes ago. You don't need to be contrasty. You have two ways, I mean, to give the feeling on the screen to the viewer that there is resolution. One way, you don't have it. You don't have enough resolution. That is to say, at that time, the system or the cameras push the contrast. It is our first nightmare 11 years ago with the first Sony f900. It was a 2/3 format, not enough resolution, in fact, for the big screens. The only way was to push the contrast, to give you the feeling that there is some details that, in fact, you don't have. You know? It's an artificial. The only thing is that you can't shoot any actor which is over 15 years. It is so chirurgical about the skins and about the details. You remember maybe this period of nightmare. So if you give resolution and you have a camera with a lot of resolution, that you can. Pardon. Do you want me to sing? Tu veux que je chante? And there is the only way, if you have the resolution, and now you know, that's why, I mean, the war of the resolution is still going on cameras. You know, we start with the HD, with the 2K, 4K, 8K now, and we are speaking even 10Ks or 12Ks. It is because when you push the resolution, it means different things. It means that you don't need to push the contrast, you can be on a lower contrast. That's why most of our lenses, as you were telling, you know, have a quite low contrast because we have a lot of resolution. So we don't need to push the contrasts. You know, it's one of the thing. And the second thing is that you are shooting on a Bayer pattern, you know, as you know, on the sensor. That is to say, every point, 2 green, 1 blue, and 1 red, has a geographic position. More you have points smaller on the same area, more it will not be only a question of resolution, it will be a question of space color. More you have points on it, more you have a space color which is bigger. And the big thing about the video, but now it's not anymore video, about the, let's say the digital, is about the skins and the nuance of the colors. That's why the war of the resolution is still going on. It is because it is not a question of resolution, it is a question of space color. More points on the Bayer, more you will have nuance about the colors, and the color is really, you know, the big thing of the electronic cameras, as we know. So that is to say that about when we are speaking about what we want to do with it, we know that we need resolution. So all these lenses are always in the center at 200 pairs of line, and even in the borders, we don't play with that naturally. If we want to change it, we can change it. That's why we are looking for a solution for you, and it will be your choice. I mean, to play a little bit with the resolution, a little bit with the contrast, and a little bit with the bokeh. Everything is about that. But naturally, when you are looking at the lens, the first thing is that you have a set of 12 lenses, which are between 1 kilos and 600 grams to 2 kilos and 100 grams. You know, the bigger, the heaviest are the 200 millimeters, the two extreme, and the 18. So to keep this size and this weight, with this level of resolution everywhere, with a low contrast, because you have a lot of resolution, with no distortion closely, with a minimum of focus which is very close, which is very important for us, as we know, as close, that is to say, like this, for all the lenses. To have a continuity and to be in continuity with the zoom, it's a big deal, really, you see? So the first thing is the size, the weight, minimum of focus, the level of resolution and distortion. So that is to say, when it is natural, you can match all these lenses. You have tested with all our zooms. Same level of quality with the, if you like the zooms, you will like the primed. But it's open at 1.8. And 1.10, that is to say, to play in a different way with the depth of field and everything we know about the higher stop. That's why we go, at this period, we go on the primes, when we are very famous for the zooms, in fact. And to be, you know, to look in a picture that with a very different depth of field and in different conditions, because the digital camera are very sensitive, so that is to say, to be more open, maybe it is to get benefit of natural light, which was very critical on silver film. Okay, so all this choice are the main laws of what we try to do. The second thing, tu es là, Ben, oui. The second, je suis trop bavard, non?
Je pense, oui.
Okay. We have to look what we can do specifically that we can't do in post-production, which is not so enormous. We can do a lot of things and more in post-production. So if we do it technically, there is no sense for that. So looking just for something that we can't reproduce in post-production, not easily, or very expensive. Of course, to be on all the 12 lenses, to be matching very well. Independent, if we want a special effect, it must be linked to a focal length, because it will be too difficult to remember each time what. We have to find something which is working for all the set in the same way, for you to make it easy. It's your choice of one aesthetic, and it must be constant on all the lenses. It's a big deal, because the focal lengths have not the same quality. And after, this is our next step, is to give you, with different matching of the IOP, to give you some reference in picture, just for you not to spend experimentation during 2 months in the rental company, of course. So the next step is to give you, you know, some a catalog, a bibliothèque that will go on to develop, to give you different effects, and you can choose before the start of the film, during the prep, in fact, on which line do you want to go? Is it a question of contrast? Is it a question of flare? And the company will prepare, the technician of the rental company will prepare your lens, 15 minutes for each lens, to give you the aesthetic that you have chosen and that maybe after a while you will know, which belong to you. That is to say, your set will be something which is really your personal choice. Maybe you will have a small box with your filters inside and it will be only yours. So this is what we say here. On continue? Ça va? So, in fact, about what we can do, there is not so many things. If we don't want to play with the quality of the picture, not to lose any, to lose information, in fact, we have two parameters. The first parameter is the contrast. So, with the contrasts, I will speak it. I will give you some more details. We call it in the internal, in the afocal filter holder. We have a specific place where the reaction. I give you more details in 2 minutes. When you have a very constant reaction of the filters. So that you can get when you are filtering in front or filtering in the rear. It changes a lot of things. If we are speaking about the bokeh, there is not so many things to change. We have to change the iris. You have seen that there is 6 pearls, 9 pearls, sometimes 15 pearls. It's a question which are fixed with different manufacturers. It depends what kind of bokeh do you want. In that case, you can change it. As simple as that. To change a bokeh, it is the iris. So we will have 3 pale. Maybe you remember the Summicron or the Distingon from Zeiss with 3 pales, 40 years ago. So we can have 3 pale to change the bokeh. 9 pale, it is a standard in the lens. And we have the oval for the reason I give you about the anamorphic, to play for dynamic reason and to match from spherical to anamorphic. It is not to replace the anamorphic, of course, it couldn't work. The perspective is very different, but to give the same quality of bokeh with 2 lenses which are very similar in contrast and resolution. That's the point of that. So we are matching, of course, on all the sets in colorimetry and in color and contrast. About the resolution, we are very flat. Because you test, you are probably one of the first one to test the prime, do you? Yeah. Yeah.
I like it, but not this, but another.
But
The flat I like it because it's very soft.
yeah.
The image is very, very soft.
It's very, very soft. And about the distortion?
The contrasting interior and exterior is very effective. No, there are
Is not rude.
yeah.
Yeah. So you see, it's not me. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So it is one of the big thing is to have a lens which is without any filtering, without any effect, which is as good as possible. And of course, on all the stops, not only after 2 stops of the main openings that we were used with all the lenses. So all these lenses are from the wide open to the all the scale of the stop have closely the same level of quality. Really, it's very, very similar. And about the distortion is perfectly corrected. Even on the 18, you will see by yourself, the correction is very good. Ok, so this is the main idea. On continue?
Ouais.
On est parti pour 2 jours, non?
Ça, c'est ce que tu as dit tout à l'heure.
Oui, donc c'est ce qu'on a dit, je crois qu'on peut passer. I told you everything about that. So, we are looking for the bokeh, triangular, just to show it, and to the anamorphic, you know, the kind of pupilla to match from spherical to anamorphic about the bokeh, what you see there. And this is what we spoke about, the spherical and to the anamorphic. You can see that even if the field is exactly the same between these two lenses, one is spherical, the other one is anamorphic, the relation with the background is not the same. That's why the anamorphic is very specific, and that's why we want to play with the dynamic of the spherical, trying to give you the same feeling as the anamorphic about but not about the dynamic. The dynamic is very specific if you are with a 2 times shorter lens. It's a big deal. So this is why we do that. Tu continues? So in contrasty, it's not so easy to change the contrasty in post-production, as we know. The latitude is not so big, you see? So it's very interesting to have a lower contrast. It can be very, very useful. So about the contrast, it will be inside the lens in afocal position, and it can be a lot of things about diffusion, about whatever. You have to check if it is not in our catalog, what's going on, but it could be whatever you want, in fact. And there is a special things about that, yeah. About the effects, because sometimes people are looking for the flares and so on, which is always surprising me. You can change and put some uncoated filters, for example, to add some flares. It will be very normal if you don't have any spots into the picture. You will not feel it very much. But when you are, you know, with by night with spot and so on, you will see. I will show you a few pictures. It will really react, but it stay moderate. You know, it is not Star Wars. For Star Wars, it is not enough. So we can blue strike. Blue strike. It's to give you. We are not obliged to use that, to give you the effect of the front anamorphic lenses, you know, the blue line on hot spots. You want to use it or not, it depends which project you are doing as usual. If you are making a period film, maybe the blue strike is not a very good idea, to be more natural. And we have the net. I'm very fond of nets. I think it's really beautiful, but it was very difficult to use it during a shooting, because the point is when you put it on a short lens, you know what is a net? Hein? Comment on dit?
La média.
La média.
Se pone en un filtro.
You have never used that, no? It's very, very, very beautiful. The only point, you know it, the only point is when you are using in front, if you are on short lens, you can see the trauma, you see? And if you use it in the rear, on a long lens, because you have a lot of depth of focus, you will see the trauma. So it will always a big deal. So on short lenses, we put it in the rear, small depth of focus. And on long lens, we put it in front because small depth of field. You see? That is to say, we had a strategy very complicated from the lens, for the lens, to use the trauma. So we were limited. Where do we put it? In front or in rear? It depends of the focal length, and it depends of the focus, and it depends of the stop. In fact, more you close, more your depth of field becomes bigger, so you have a risk to see the trauma. Okay? And in the back, for the depth of focus, it's the same. So, At this position, it was very difficult to do it. We have done it, but it was really a nightmare on the film. When you put it in the afocal point, there is no limitation. That is to say, the effect is there at all the lenses, at any stop, any focal focus points. You see? This is what changed. It is very, very steady. And you don't have any strategy from the shorts to be heavier about the diffusion and to be lighter for the long lens. You don't need it. In the afocal point, it's very, very steady. And the effect is the same on all the lenses, which is really a plus. Qu'est-ce qu'on a dit? So that's why we come in this, in pupil, in this zone afocal, close to the iris, where there is a pupilla. Does it mean something for you? It's a specific zone where the beam is parallel. There is no convergence in it. That is to say, all the effects that you are putting in it is very steady. That's why we put the stop there. You see? So this position is very, very easy because it's very constant. The only thing is that you have to do it, not you, it is done by the rental company because you have to disassemble the lens. It's not a big deal, but it takes 15 minutes to do it properly in a clean place, and it's supposed to be done by the rental company, not by us. You see? So, in fact, you will choose what kind of aesthetic are you looking for. You will look at in a biblioteca which combination should be interested to give you this look. You give the phone to the rental company to have the time to organize all the lens the way you want, and then you are done, and you can make the prep as usual. You see? You are not supposed to do it because, of course, as we know, when we are renting equipment, we are not supposed to interfere into the equipment. So it is a choice that you do before, of course. Even if it is not very complicated, but it's a question of relation between the assistant and the rental company. If you are working in shooting in a very in a situation which is difficult for the connection. Okay? So this is what you will see by yourself. We, on the 18 millimeter, we put iris free pale, triangulaire. On the 21, we put the trauma we are speaking about. We have two kinds of trauma, one in silk, and the other one is done by us optically, but very beautiful, you will see. And we have another one which is the old silk, comment on dit, Dior. Non mais les médias. And we have another thing about, I give you some details about that. It is a way for the DP to choose the contrast directly with the iris. What a revolution. You see? That is to say, you can have, for example, with that kind of lenses, I will give you some details, you could choose your contrasts with the diaphragm, you know? That is to say, for example, to have a very low contrast wide open, and you close, 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 until the contrast, it is what you are expecting. You see? It's a kind of revolution, isn't it? It's not a question of quality. It is just to choose the contrast that you want. You know, if you want to match and you are on the set at 12, very contrasty, you have a way to go down a little bit artificially the contrast by playing with the stop. So that's a new thing. And because the lens is very good from the wide open to the closest, you know. That's why, because the quality is really there. You don't have to choose a stop because of the quality of a vintage lens. So it's another story. On continue?
Ouais. On verra en pratique ça. Ça, on l'a déjà dit, je pense.
Effet d'indépendance dans la focale. So when you are filtering again, it's very constant. All the effects that you have on a 50 on a 200 millimeter, it is the same on the 18 millimeter, which is not the case when you are filtering in front, for example, of the lens, of course. It doesn't depend of the focal length. It doesn't depend of the focus points, and the iris. No interference, optical, or no risk of optical interference or mechanical interference. We were speaking about the tram. Look what it could be. When you are here, it is in rear. You can see the trauma appearing. Then you are in a big trouble, in fact. And when, for 28, for example, if you put it in front, you have this kind of thing when you come to the minimum of focus, you see. So it's a big deal. It's really critical to experiment. On continue? Dis donc, qu'est-ce qui se passe? There is a IOP effect in the monitor? Oh my God. It's, ouais, dis donc, la correction est pourrave. So you can see, for example, on the 21, the effect of the uncoated. You see? It's very natural. It gives a little diffusion. You can see it's very, you will see it by yourself. But it's very beautiful, and it is never critical. You know, you have not many risks to have if you are making a period film and you don't want, you know, flares or just a little bit. Sometimes it can be really well balanced with this filter. Pardon, oui? No. It is absolutely the same, because in fact it's an optical glass with no coating, so it doesn't take off anything. No, on that you have no risk. For the iris, it's another story, of course. On continue, but you will see by yourself after. It's better not to believe anybody and to look by yourself. So about the trauma. I'm very fond of it. You will see by yourself about the level of the. I don't know if you can see it from where you are, but the trauma is really beautiful. But very difficult to use it in direct, front or rear. In that case, really it works very well, and it's really comfortable with no risk. You will see by yourself, because we prepare some lenses with some tram just for you to have a look, a quick look. Continue. And you see that with the uncoated, you see what it could be on a spot. But the skin, the rest of the picture is very normal, in fact. You know, with no disease. I think it's very efficient. And when you don't have, you know, spots, I mean, to create this kind of effect, if you are on a very natural film, it will be very, very natural with no risk. So that's why it could be a good choice as a standard, in fact. You see what's going on? Well, it can be interesting, of course. Depend for a commercial or whatever, it can be very useful, I think, and very easy to use. Again, so we have a few examples, you know, normal without nothing with the filter, you see, just to compare. And from the wide, to the closest, not to the closest, but to a tight shot. You see? Just to see how it reacts on a wide shot. It is one of the big deal when you have only the front or the rear position. Most of the time it is not enough, and it's very difficult to identify how far can we go. On that one, you don't think of that. You like that? You like this kind of effect of contrast? You put it in all the lenses, and it will be very, very constant with no risk to see the trauma. But not all the trauma, of course. But it's another story. Okay, on continue. 28 millimeter. When you will see it closer, you will see that the effect is always the same. Vas-y, on peut continuer. Je crois qu'on peut aller un peu plus vite. 32 millimeters. Of course, we do it step by step with all the lenses to see if it is constant or not. You see, so it's a big deal. 32 mm uncoated, ouais. So don't care about the color, it is about the effect. Ça c'était quoi? Tram 6D au 50, 50 mm. We feel it about the skin. The skin is very beautiful with the tram. On continue, 135. Okay, it resists very well. We don't see any trauma on it. And the effect is very constant. It belongs to the same family as the first one on the 18 mm, which is very cool. D'accord? Uncoated.
Continue.
You see, there is something, a kind of round on the skin, which is very, it's a very good combination with the contrast, in fact, my opinion. You like, you know, the softness of the lens about the contrast. Really, it's a...
For woman actress, this optical is...
Even for the boys, you know, why only a woman? Yes, for the skin, really, yeah. It's, in fact, it kills the micro contrast that the digital is reproducing. One of the, a lot of time we are speaking about the contrast. In fact, it is a micro contrast. That is to say, really, you know, on each spot, something which is very contrasty. I say, which is not, which is very broadcast, in fact, very video, in fact. In that case, it is to kill this kind of effect. So, in conclusion, for the skin level, it's really a question of contrast most of the time, and we have the way to really control it and to give to a set different looking, you know, without being vintage, with a high level of quality, and with no risk with a modern lens, as we know. It's, so you could do, you could have different aesthetic, which are very close to what you like, without the accidents. If you want to create accidents, you know, it's not so difficult, in fact, to create, but normally there will be, you will not have a bad surprise. And so this is what we spoke about the tram. En filtrage arrière, very dangerous to use a trauma in the rear of the lens, because more you have depth of focus, that is to say, more the lens, the focal length is long, more you have the risk to see the trauma. Okay? Et en filtrage interne, we don't have this kind of problem. Okay, on peut passer.
C'est bon, c'est fini.
So we are done. Next step is for you to try a few things. So we prepare, as you have seen, all the lenses with different combination, just for you to have a look, and we have lenses without anything, just for you to see how it reacts. Okay? So do we jump on the camera just to have a look and okay, cool, right?
Gracias, Jean-Yves. Tu veux un café?
Ah oui, volontiers, ouais. Pardon, génial, merci.
Eh bien, parfait.
Génial. So if you want to, you know, we say technician seated, technician dead. Maybe you have to raise and have a look close to the lenses. Merci. Close to the lenses.
Lo que vamos a hacer, si queréis, es probar las lentes que tenemos como normales y luego podemos probar la misma focal con efectos distintos, que tenemos unas ya puestas con efectos que son varios, entonces es un poco una mezcla de todo. Hay unos con iris tres palas y hay uno con el cochil, otras con el ovalado y etcétera. Pero se puede ver cosas y por supuesto se puede pasar acerca de la cámara.
Come to have a look. I will show you a few things.
Para despertar.
So of course, it's for a nightmare. 18 millimeter, you know, as close as that, it's really
Entonces se podría ver la
not
señal.
really sexy.
Sí está iniciando. Ok, vale.
So it is. We are looking for the effect. Don't. So this is with the IOP. That one. That is to say, in this lens, we have a free pale.
Nos robaron una lente que
You
estaba
see?
en una mesa así en París.
The spots in the background,
Paris.
so you can imagine by
También sí,
night
pero en
what
una
it
mesa
could be
así.
in a street by
No, es que
night.
te digo como
You see?
así en una mesa. Se roba así.
So
Hay
that
que
one
llegar
is a 18 millimeters with a free
son
pale
nuestras y
in
luego
it.
se mezclan.
Et qu'est-ce qu'on a d'autre
Hay de
dedans
cuidado, hay de nuestra. 18, qu'est-ce qu'il y a?
Sur le 18, on avait
Il y a
un
la
3 pales
3 pales et le T15.
et T15. So in this lens, so come and have a look by yourself, you know, don't be afraid of cameras.
También el señal de la cámara se verá en la pantalla aquí, en el monitor. Entonces se puede ver ahí y ya.
You don't want to try? Just try. I
Don't
mean,
be
all your life you will be on a
I'm
camera.
never so close,
No. But you will be.
Eso es
You
el
will
de
be.
Jean-Yves, ¿no?
Have a look inside
que
the
siempre
man.
se lo-
You can
se lo
play
olvido.
with the iris to see how it
Son
reacts.
nuestras.
And in fact, inside this,
Una
have a look.
cámara.
It's not dangerous,
Nosotros
I tell
llevamos
you.
12 en total.
Yes, it is dangerous. And in fact, you have on this lens, you have a special filter. In fact, with a kind of hole.
Sí,
In fact,
exacto.
it's not a
Entonces,
hole,
tiene
but you have a zone
un diafragma 3 palas
which has the
y
size
luego
of the
un
pupilla for a
filtro un
certain
poco
stop,
raro que está explicando,
and with a lot
que tiene-
with
que lleva
diffusion
difusión en
around.
los alrededor. Y
And
luego
what
en
is
el-
specific
en el medio
in
está dentro.
the afocal
lo que
point,
estaba comentando,
it
es
is that
decir
the
que
diffusion
si
goes
estás full abierto,
everywhere.
ya tienes
It is not,
un-
you know, limited
una
to a
difusión
point,
que te
like
quita un
what
poco
we
el
are
contraste.
doing in the
Y
rear
si
or in the
cierras, cada
front.
vez que cierras un poco
You-
más,
if you
te
put
vas
a
a
spot
llegar
in
a
the
la zona
center,
neutral
you will
donde
see
hay
a
el
spot in the
contraste normal.
center, not in the afocal position, because it's afocal. So you can have, for example, a spot of, in that case, of
este
15
filtro
millimeter,
todavía no existe, es solo una idea.
of 15
lo estamos desarrollando.
millimeter for a good reason, because at T4, in fact,
No se puede
when you
decir mucho,
close the
la cosa es
iris,
que
you will
estamos
be
tratando de
inside on a glass which is
probando
not
cosas
roll,
y a ver lo que
optical
sale.
glass, you see? And the diffusion is around. So when you open the stop, you will get all the diffusion. And when more you close, more the contrast is changing because you have less effect
aquí
of
en
diffusion
España,
until, let's say, 4, where you escape completely the diffusion.
De full frame.
So you can choose. And imagine that at the same time, because we have done it with a nut roll. When you close, you have less less contrast. We have more contrast. You go to natural points. You can imagine that we could, for example, reverse and put the diffusion inside, and not in the, and not around. That is to say, when you close more you
La
close,
idea es que
more
esas
it
ópticas
become
van a mezclar
with a low
perfectamente con
contrast.
este ultra 12 por.
If we are
Así que tenemos
shooting,
un,
you know,
un
in
sistema
very
completo.
high contrast countries, it can be very useful. Tu vois? So at that moment, the stop is really a parameter to adjust the
Sí,
contrast.
sí, y porque la gente siempre se está
You see?
pidiendo con qué
Do you want to
tipo
have
de
a look?
fijas voy a mezclar mi zoom
No.
ingénieux, Q, Cosais o Ari, y ahora sí tienes la opción de mezclar
No,
ingénieux
of
con
course
ingénieux.
not.
Por fin.
Just for you to have just for you to have a look. You know how it reacts about the,
Pero
you
sí,
know.
hay que aprovechar, si queréis.
The optical is very good. For me, the light is the most alarm, no?
Yeah. Yes, of course. It's, and you see that the contrast is not the same. You see?
De media, sí, es algo que te da un look
I'm
un
not
poco
really.
vintage.
So I play
Te
with
mata
it,
un poco el
and
contraste.
at one moment I
Ya,
will
ya lo
be
tenemos ya
inside
disponible.
the cycle,
Y creo que Willem
and
lo va a tener rápido.
of course I am on a normal contrast. In fact, at that moment, where am I? I'm at 4. And of course, we organize all these filters to have exactly the same stop of use on all the lenses. That is to say, we have in fact 3 families of lenses because the size of the pupilla is not the same and depends of the focal length. But just for you not to think about that, you think only about the contrast and you choose your contrast with the stop. For example, it can be an example.
Disponibles para que la gente se da cuenta de que lo que hay, elige su look y luego lo pide a la casa de alquiler.
Yeah. So, for example,
The most is the,
pardon, no, don't move.
La verdad es que hemos
No,
probado
we have a longer,
sobre
it
todo,
is a
ha probado
200
varias
200
opciones de
millimeter.
filtros. Y
So we
hay
go
unos
from
que han
the
salido
18 millimeter
no siendo
to
muy
the 200
interesantes
millimeter.
o con demasiado
And,
límites.
and
Así que lo que estamos tratando de poner en el
it's a
mercado
cameraman.
es lo
Yes,
que da
hello.
un efecto bueno.
So you have the
constante
200
en
millimeter,
del-
which is right
del
here.
18 al 200. Y que sea algo utilizable
You see?
por una cámara.
wow.
So it is a little bit more close, 2.1, 2.2.
Mira el
2.2 for the 200 millimeter. The size is not the same as the others. It is a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
como la
You
Zeiss
see?
Super Speed,
Yeah.
creo que tenían este.
It's a 114 millimeter size.
I take a photo with you. Beautiful.
¿Quieres una foto tú con él? Yo te,
Okay,
¿sí?
thank you. Me encanta, por favor, qué maravilla.
Yeah, we can be.
With twins.
Yes, of course, with pleasure.
¿Qué?
With the 200 millimeter.
¿No quieres
Not
quitar
too
la
close.
máscara?
Sí, nos quitamos la máscara.
La puta máscara que se quite.
I am a lucky man, huh?
Ya.
Merci, merci.
Merci.
beaucoup.
Merci.
Merci.
So you see, it's,
I like it.
and of course,
Beautiful. Beautiful.
with with a minimum of focus to be
Solo hay que
closely at the
dejarlas
same
enfrente de
time.
su
I love
At 4
this.
feet.
para no mezclar
I love
todo,
this.
pero sí, 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 por
The
supuesto.
very, very.
Yeah,
Esta no
it's a
se
very
va
big
a
close-up,
mucho,
yeah.
lo que-
Yeah.
el 3 para lo vas a
With
ver muy, muy fácilmente si lo
With
pones
the
en la luz.
story, for me, is very important.
Yeah, it
Pero
belongs
puedes
to
ver
the
así,
same
sí,
story.
Woman, the
Incluido
Yeah,
sin la
and to
cámara, porque se ve-
escape and to have somebody in the background. So the minimum of focus is very, very important. And the quality of the minimum of focus, which is a big deal. You have some lens, the close focus is very close, but in fact they are not good. You know?
Con las
That is
rayas
to say, a lens is not always at all the distance, can be very different from one distance to the other, about the quality, you know, and contrast and...
The team of movie in Canarias who told Pedro
Yeah,
in the beginning, the DOP is my friend,
yeah,
and I want to see the filmage
yeah.
in Canarias and in Portugal, and I want to see that with this optical.
Okay, and we can
you
manage,
understand?
if you want to make a test and so on, we will manage
Okay.
with our friends, we will manage for you to
Okay,
test
okay.
it,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
will tell us.
Today he can go here,
Yeah.
but I told her.
Yes, okay, and Anyway, we stay in contact, and
Okay, right.
whatever, you give a phone call or whatever,
Okay,
you know,
okay.
or a mail,
I like it.
and we will manage something
Yeah.
to.
For me, the more difficult is to choose the optical. What do you want to your film?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because
yeah.
it's what do you say is very things you must decide.
Yeah, exactly. You have we have an obsession with some lenses and not the others. Like all the DPs, they're famous.
There are for me, there are too many options.
Yeah, but
For me, a genius is very good, Cook is very good, Leica is very good.
yeah, of course. All these lenses are anyway. They are different.
big,
yeah, it's you can make a 6-month film without any problem, and something which is very steady from one lens to the other. That's the point, in fact. On some lenses, it's they are so different. I don't know how we can shoot with that.
Yeah. For me, the optical is your best friend.
Yes,
Your best friend
yes, of course.
For the film.
It's absolutely the eye of the film.
The camera
so.
perhaps could be a Red, could be Alexa, could be, but the optical for
It's,
me is.
It is what makes the difference between because a lot of cameras are very similar
Yeah.
in fact about what we see on the pictures, but the lens is making the difference, of course. But at the same time, it must make the difference, but not destroy the pictures. As we know, the information is very important. In post-production, if you want to take off some resolution, it's so easy. We do it on Final Cut. It's not a big deal. The big thing is to keep the information. It's a very big thing, and not to be chirurgical at the same time. So it's always a big story. Yeah. That's why all the vintage lenses, I am vintage. I'm very vintage, and I can tell you, I was dreaming of a period when choosing a lens was not, a big deal.
Yeah, indeed.
Pardon, je t'en prie, oui.
Déjà, tu as un café qui a refroidi.
Oui,
Première chose,
je
c'est
vais le
très
prendre.
important.
Ouais,
Et
très
deuxième
important.
chose, oui, Pedro suggère qu'on fasse s'asseoir les gens.
Non, surtout pas.
Et que, non mais parce que regarde, il y a un écran qui est là. Si on fait les.
Non, mais surtout pas à l'école. J'ai déjà eu beaucoup de mal à les faire lever. C'est pas pour les faire
Alors
rasseoir.
dans ce cas-là, faut peut-être
Qu'ils viennent autour de la caméra.
qu'on change les optiques ou qu'on leur montre d'autres effets peut-être.
On va leur montrer, on va changer, bien sûr.
Ok, d'accord.
Non, mais surtout que les gens ne s'assoient pas. C'est le pire des trucs. Surtout pas. So, do you want to change the lens? You want to try something else? We can move and, Yeah, okay. But don't hesitate. Have a look, try things, and really, as you want to see something different here, very close up or whatever, why not? Really, it is done for that. Okay? Yeah. So it's a good occasion. Don't be afraid of the camera. Nobody cares.
Can we try the Dior one?
Yes, of course. We can try whatever you want.
This one as well.
So we have
The blue streak.
with the blue strike. We will test the two of it if you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, which one first? Maybe this one first.
Which one?
This one first.
Okay.
Sí, esta es la de Dior. Tiene la red ahí.
So
Se ve la red aquí dentro. Está pegada atrás.
yeah. So on this one you have the iris, the oval iris we spoke about,
Yeah, with the net in the back.
and with the net not in the back, in the rear, in
Yeah,
fact.
in the rear.
Yeah. Do we change?
Yeah.
Allez. Pardon, tiens, je te laisse. Pardon, tiens, je te laisse l'objectif. Merci. Don't be afraid. Pardon, merci. Merci beaucoup. You have to do it by yourself. I'm too old now. Alors attends, comme ça. As easy as that. Attends, pourquoi est-ce que j'ai du mal? What's the point? Non. Pourquoi je m'emmerde? I'm not in front? What's the... I'm not straight? Oh yeah. You know, you become lazy when you have assistant, camera assistant, you know? After a while, you don't know anything to do. Alors attends. So have a look by yourself. So as a... Attends, I think it's not locked. Yeah, right here. Is it closed? Yeah. Here we are. But we are not... Attends. Voilà. So maybe we can... do you want to see the closest for the moment?
Yeah.
Just to have an idea? Do it by yourself. Je sais pas ce que j'ai fait de mon café. Ah, il est là, pardon. Yeah. This is the most important thing. So what are you looking for?
To filter upwards.
Ah, like this?
Okay.
And you make free on the pan here.
Okay.
You adjust the for your eyes because you are young.
Does this one has an effect?
And this one,
It has an optical effect?
not this
but
one.
No.
No. Yes. Voilà. Yes, that one has a, sorry, has a tram, a Dior. Do you feel it?
Yes.
Oh yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is really there. So have a look. Have a look. You can be closer. You can be. So what do you think? You can play with the stop, as we were speaking about. You see? You see the flare here? You see? So it is a way, you see that with the traumas, it's a silk, in fact, inside the... Of course, we have very highlights, you know, in the reverse. We are not obliged to look for the troubles. But it reacts, have you seen? It reacts about the contrast. You see? And about the skin, do you feel that it's really soft on it? What could be interesting, because on a close-up it's always very sexy, you know. But how does it react on the white shots? This is one of the big points. That's why in a focal position it makes a difference, because it's very steady. You like it on the close-up, you will like it on the white shots. It's not a big deal. And whatever is the focal, whatever is the stop.
So you move the focal, the key number, and you move the contrast also?
Yes, of course. Not on the not with that one. No, because in fact, I did not explain you all the details of the points. In fact, this kind of filter, what we spoke about, what is different when you are in this situation of the filter, you imagine, I will show you after on another lens. In fact, you can have a filter, in that case, you have a diffusion all around, and in the center you have a cycle. Because you are on the afocal points, all the diffusion is for all the picture. We call it integrator. You see, it doesn't mean it is only in the borders and you have a spot in the center. It doesn't work like this because of the afocal position. You know, it's integrator. It's affect all the picture, but you can imagine that if you have, for example, this diameter of the filter, which is a glass, optical glass. You see the stop is very, very close. When I close, here I change the contrast, you know, from the wide open. And then at one moment I will be on the same diameter, which is with no diffusion. At that moment, you are in the real contrast of the lens. You see, you understand? And this is because of this afocal position that you have this kind of effect, of course. So if your lens is very good, you know, even at full open, you really choose your contrasts, and then you stop. And at 4, more than 4, you will not have no diffusion effects. You see? And it can be, of course, you can imagine that you can do a lot of diffusion very different, a lot of effect, whatever you want, and you can reverse. That is to say, to put the diffusion in the center, you know, with this diameter, and when you close the lens, more you close the lens, more you have, the contrast is going lower. Tu vois? You can play with it.
Kind of.
Yeah, but you understand the system.
Yeah. Nice, incredible.
How is it? You are from a school, a cinema school?
Yep.
Bravo. ICAM?
FT.
Ah, okay. Bravo. I'm teaching in the famous and Louis Lumière, in fact.
In where, sorry?
In Paris, in the famous, La Famous. Yeah. So we are speaking with the student. We make the first test with the student, and we get a lot of fun. We want fun.
Yeah.
First thing, of course.
That's important.
So try things, you know, and make free to try whatever you want.
Makes a really beautiful shape, yeah.
Okay? Do we try something else? Do you want to see the closest? How close can we come? It's very important. It's one of the big parameters when you choose a lens. Okay? So come closer. We should be higher at this focal length, of course. We should be at the ear, but anyway, just for the...
Just to try, it's okay.
Yeah, just for between us.
Yeah.
But don't say it at school. I will be in trouble. Pardon. So how close are you? Yeah. You can be closer, in fact. We turn a little bit the feet. We have to be very careful with the actors, as we know. And you can be really closer. Yeah. Do you have the focus? How is the focus? You have the focus point? Or we are too close? No? It's close? So how close are you? Like this? Yeah? It's cool, huh?
Looks really, really beautiful, huh?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
No, I think it's, and with the, you know, with the trauma, it's really cool, huh?
It makes me feel like for a video clip or...
Yeah, exactly, or commercial.
Commercial, yeah.
Of course, of
It's
course.
very commercial, this kind of, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, because it was very difficult to use, so in my generation, yes, but it was very difficult at the time. But it will re-come back because it's so easy like this, you know.
With the primes.
Yeah, exactly. When it is inside, you know, it's really changed everything, in fact. How is it? It's amazing, huh? So, one of the big question should be, okay, but a film, it's not only close-up, it is wide shot too. So, the filter is inside. You can't take it off by yourself. So my idea is to look a wider shot to see how it reacts. If I can't, if I am obliged only to use it for a close-up, I am in trouble because what do we do for the rest of the film? You see? So if I was you, I will return the camera and look for a wide shot just to see if how it reacts. If it is not, you know, Star Wars, but the bad Star Wars. Hello? Is it cool? Do we try a wide shot? Do you want to frame it? Just to change? And we just return. We go let's say like this. Yeah. We put some light, you know, a little bit like this, and help yourself. How does it react? Wide open. Pardon. Just for the moment and. Yeah, so uncoated, free pale, trama, and the one we were speaking, you know, with the hole in the middle, with a free pale iris. So we test. They are looking. Yeah, of course. You know, whatever you want to look at, we do it. Very cool. So, how is it? How is it?
I want to try the blue streak.
You want this one? Yeah, okay. Why not? Why not? But why don't you do it by yourself? I'm not afraid.
I'm afraid.
I'm sure that, no, don't be afraid. Because you will be afraid all your life if you want to make some movies. So don't be afraid. Do it by yourself, really. No reason to be afraid. Take your time and... So, of course, I mean, you have to see. Alors, so, in that case, you take it off.
Yeah.
You see that this scale, it is for me, that one is for you.
Okay.
And you see, in fact, there is only one pale now because of the metadata.
Oh, okay.
You see, there is metadata in that. So, you have only one.
Yeah.
So, you... No, too much. No, too much. Come back, and you see the index is should be horizontal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like this.
Like this.
Yeah,
So like this.
and as straight as possible if you can, not to.
Aprieta con ganas y gíralo para ver si
Attends, we lock the camera. Yeah. Non, bouge pas, regarde.
Je ne sais pas.
Si, mais there is nothing to know.
Es que no veo dónde se corta.
Tu vois, you look at that, and you come straight on it. Oh.
No, this one's not in.
It's very, very tight, huh? Ah, attends, it's not open. Sorry. Voilà. When it is open, it's better.
Yeah, it's better. Me estaba siguiendo súper tonto. No entiendo.
So, have a look by yourself. We escape and you are making a wide shot, as wide as you can. Voilà. Don't stay in front. Yeah. So how does it look? Not so wide, of course. So you are on what? On the
The what?
Voilà. It's more interesting here. What do you think? Just to see how it reacts, you know, on a wider shot, let's say. So make the focus. If I was seated here, you know. So which one is it? It is that one.
The second one.
It's the second one. How is it? No, because you don't have any spot.
Yeah, I know, that's why we need more spots.
You know, so we could,
O ponemos linternas detrás de eso también.
in that case, you know, we return and we will
Bring
be.
the camera further away.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, so you know the way. Do you want to sit down?
No,
You don't want?
I finished already.
Ah, okay, you have finished?
No, I asked.
Do you want to sit down? Pardon. So we will change the lights. Take first you make the frame as you want, and we will adjust the light for you to have some spot. Okay? Tiens, regarde. He's very good. He's coming to us. Do you see something?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you framed?
Yeah, we're framed.
But maybe a little bit like this, no?
Yeah, maybe a bit
But,
closer to you.
yeah. And now we are looking. And now look at that.
Yeah, the blue streaks.
I like the oval. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, it's very cool. In fact, if you wanted more, we could bring a little bit the lady.
Yeah.
And look at that. Can you come closer? Pardon. There? Pardon. Oh, le beau bokeh. It depends on the relation that you want, and our friend is making, you know, some flair. You see, right here, and you can be really more. You see, you could be more flary with it. First is the picture. Huh? So you see, it's very interesting. Then you can play with between spherical and anamorphic because the bokeh are very similar. With a different effect, dynamic. Okay? Is that cool? Is that cool?
I like it.
You like it? You want to try something else? We can do more. Huh?
Every single one.
Yes, of course. Next one.
We already have this one.
Yeah. You want?
Did the dual already?
You have done it,
And now we have this one.
and
So maybe we could try that too.
the 21 with tram.
Yeah.
Okay, just to see if on a short lens it reacts the same way. Okay. Yeah, do
Oh yeah.
do it by yourself. So he needs a second assistant. So you will give him the lens. Ah, pardon. Voilà, bien joué. Well done. Alors? You succeed? It's okay? No, attends. No, only one person at the... So you are right-handed? Right. So you should be there. Tu vois? Yeah. Then you push to open. So keep a hand on the lens, of course. Okay? Yes, you are. Then you give it to your camera assistant. Voilà. Never force on the mount, really. It's very...
Las dos pestañitas van así, arriba, mira,
Tram. It's trauma. Media. Sorry. So you see, there is a hole here, and you have the pin here. You see?
hacia el lado.
And you should be locked everywhere. Voilà. Here you are. And you look very well. Yep. You are done. Parfait. Bravo. Là, tu reviens dessus. Voilà. And you lock it. And you are done. Okay. Thanks. My pleasure. So, hello. Who is framing? You are framing? Yeah? Is it good? Yeah, it's crazy, huh? This is because of the tram, of the media.
And the media make more contrast or less contrast?
Less contrast. Less contrast.
Are interested in have less contrast?
Ah, okay, of course. No problem. Yes, of course you can. With pleasure. No. It's. Oh, look at that. Ça fait peur. Pardon. And you can adjust, yeah, and play with it. And look the skin, but he has a perfect skin anyway. So yeah. So, but look at the quality of the skin. It's very important. It's always about that, in fact. You see, it reacts. And of course, if we put a light, on est au combien? On est au 21 mm. If we were a little bit closer, look at that. Because with him it's too easy. Pardon. It's too easy because his skin is young, so his skin is perfect. But for me, it's another story. Pardon.
And what's your name, sorry?
Genevieve.
Genevieve. And IMDb?
Bravo. And you are looking in IMDb?
Wait.
Yeah, but, and you I write my name if you want. Yeah. Johnny Juan en fait.
There's no coverage.
It doesn't cover? I do it on mine if you want. Do we have a coverage? Very small, huh?
Yeah.
I try anyway. But anyway, you have my name in it and...
So it's for you later.
Tiens, attends.
You have Instagram and everything, no?
Sorry?
Do you have Instagram and everything? Instagram?
Yeah, no,
You don't
not
post
in...
your work on Instagram?
No, you know, I'm not as young as you. For me, you know, I have 2 or 3, so yes, MDB, it's perfect. No more. But the company, of course. Yeah. I leave it to you. How is it? Is it it's cool? So you can be closer. In fact, on the 21, you could really, you know, if you want to work a little bit Lars von Trier, so you know this. It can be, yeah. He's using very short lenses, very very close. So the minimum of focus is very important for you. We can cheat you just a little bit that way, yeah, like this. And you are supposed to be in front of the lens. It's very bold for an actress.
Demasiado cerca, ¿no? Ya.
But you see, we see the net. Look at that. We see the net because of the backlight. Because we are very, very close. So we are at the limit of the system. So take care.
To can avoid the red lines.
Yeah, you see the red lines in the bokeh.
Yeah,
In the bokeh, yeah. So we should change a little bit the axe of the camera just to escape, just to see if we can escape. Yeah, here we escape it. So this is that spot which is doing the bad boy. Oui, merci. My pleasure. We see you have seen the nets. Yeah, because the projector is really going on it.
We were actually talking about that.
Yeah.
That might be a problem sometimes. So if you put the trauma, but maybe put the filter instead of the trauma, you can avoid this kind of.
Oh yes, of course. You will not. In fact, this one is we don't use it anymore. We are making the optic by ourselves. So and you see, sometimes when it is very strong, it's not a good idea to have a trauma inside, because each time you light up, in fact, it is because the light lights up the effect. You see. Alors attends. And you see, we can escape it. Because in fact it is when the light is really flashing the filter. So you just play a little bit of the angulation and you are done, and you have the effect anyway. You see? And you see, but do you see the skins? The skins are very, very cool. I think. Have you seen that? It's very. You have the details, but the contrast is very low. In fact, it's cool, huh?
It's cool.
Our best lens. Oh. Pardon, excuse-moi. Try to finish my coffee. How is it? Is it good?
What's the SVG? SVG. This is 50 millimeters with SVG.
It's vintage. It's a filter in the rear, a vintage look. Yeah. That it breaks the resolution in the.
So, and is it more warm? Like,
It's not a question of color. It's really a question of resolution.
Resolution, yeah.
That is to say, you will have the center which is very sharp, and the rest in the periphery will be less sharp, let's say.
Okay.
Because we do it very
This
slowly.
contrast, yeah.
It's not anymore a question of contrast, it's a question of resolution. Tu vois?
It's like center in the middle of the...
Exactly, in the middle of the picture. That's right. Yeah. So, how is it? Is it good? So, did you try to change the iris?
The iris?
Yeah. Look at that. So this is wide open. We can put a filter if we want. We are, of course, overexposed. But look at that. You see that there is a diffusion inside. And I close the iris. Look at that. And it's become less and less, more and more contrast, in fact. You see? And now you are in a normal contrast, because we are inside the cycle. You see? Yeah, I'm closely at 4. So as I start to be inside, I am on the optical glass, so I don't have anymore a lower contrast. How is it?
Amazing.
It's cool, huh?
Yeah.
So you can do a lot of things, in fact. And very steady with safety. The big deal is not to make a big kitchen that, in fact, it works only on one lens or in one condition.
Yeah.
Unless you can't make a film. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
You have 12, yeah.
It could be that. It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But you are in danger, huh, in that case.
Need to be more careful.
What did we try? Did we try something else?
We just changed for the 50.
Yeah, why not? You want to see the 50, the classical, without anything, or?
This is without anything? No.
No, there is a filter in it.
In this one?
In this one, yeah.
Which kind of is this?
It's a Tiffen, the one, which is playing with the contrasts. That's why when you are wide open, apart the overexposed, we could put a filter. You see that the contrast is lower. We could put a filter. You see, more I close, hello, no more. More I close, more the contrast is natural. In fact, it is standards. When you are at 4, you are inside the hole, so that is to say there is no diffusion. You see. How is it? Is it working well?
Well, very well.
Tu vois, with the trauma, even if the focus is not perfect,
Yeah.
with the trauma and the diffusion, with the stop, you really have a change of contrast from the wide open to 4. That's why it is so interesting for that.
It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I like it all this.
Thank you very much. But you have to try. When you want, I will give you my I give it to you right now.
Okay.
And don't hesitate. Send me a SMS or send me.
Okay,
I want to
merci
make
beaucoup.
some tests
Merci.
and.
No, yeah, I speak very bad English and very bad French.
No, it's not a big deal.
I want to.
My Spanish is not good at
Okay.
all. I don't understand anything.
Jean-Yves.
Jean-Yves. Yeah.
Jean.
Yeah. One.
No, I want to go with the people who film in Canarias. I
Yeah.
want to go and see if you go. Perhaps if I go, you normally go to the filmage or not?
If I go sometimes, yes, sometimes with good friend, you know,
Es que
just a few hours,
Exacto. O sea, es por el iris.
just for the pleasure.
Es que es uno varado,
Going
entonces no
to
tiene la misma
Canarias, to
amplitud.
Portugal and
No puede
Rio de
abrirse
Janeiro.
al final,
Okay.
entonces tiene que pararse antes, porque si no, el oval toca y va más.
And you are coming to Camerimage? Are you going to Camerimage? Yeah, okay.
I go in Portugal with these people.
Okay, very
And
cool.
I see. And
Very
after
cool.
that, I tell you what
Okay.
I think about
What
Eugenius.
about, yeah, exactly, and
I
what you
take
think?
pictures and
Just to see if, and if there is any question, you take your phone and call me directly, and it will be,
okay.
and I will get your name and your phone number or a mail.
I think I have.
Oh, you send me, you have my card here on my mobile. You send me your VCA card and I know who you are.
You have Instagram?
I have Instagram, but I never go there. It's not my generation. I have, you know, I go on EMDB, you know,
And only that, no?
yeah, very limited. WhatsApp a little bit. Merci. Parfait.
De rien.
Impeccable. Okay, so we stay in touch. If you have any question, just give a phone call or SMS or a mail, and as easy as that.
And you're from Paris?
Yeah, I'm living in Paris and Saint-Étienne because the factory is in Saint-Étienne on the top of the hill.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, we are in the countryside and you know at 1,000 meters, so it's very pure. You know, it's really. It doesn't seem to be a factory. It seems to be a factory of milk. You know, something like that. Not optic and. No, it's very cool.
And you are
un filtro prototipo que
Yeah, you know, I am. If you go to IMDb, you can see. Yeah.
I want to cruise.
Yeah, but you know, it's you know, we are looking for the future. The rest is.
La difusión solo está en los alrededores. Exacto.
Yeah, it's because the students were playing with it, you know. Oh, pardon.
A lot of.
Yeah, shoot. Yeah, I'm not so young, yeah. That's the point. How is it?
Pero ahora me di cuenta hace poco que
So it's
no había
pardon.
enviado el link de este
Merci.
vídeo, estaba así.
À très bientôt alors. When you.
We talk.
Ah, sí,
Okay, and maybe in Camerimage, maybe.
With pleasure.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's a
Thank you very
pleasure.
much for this listen.
No, it's just you know, quick, and try not to kill everybody with boring. With the
Very
PowerPoint.
interesting and fun. Good. Very
Okay, thank you very much.
good. Nothing at all. Thank you.
Bye bye, my pleasure.
A pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thanks to come.
Ah, para probar, para reproducirlo. Sí, sí.
How is it? Do you need some more light? Maybe we can.
Ojalá la gente le va
Maybe we can
a
add
pedir
some
más.
light to this
Tú vas a
young
ya
lady.
En poco tiempo lo harás los ojos cerrados. Seguramente. Sí.
How is it?
Es que la hizo él.
Does it help? So maybe you can go down a little bit the frame. It's better, huh?
Sí, sí, sí.
What do you think? But anyway, it's a style. How does it work? It works good. About the skins, you are happy?
Of changing the contrast without changing the
Yeah,
diaphragm.
it's another way of. In fact, you know, at my period, it was not so easy because the lens were not so good. So you had to close the iris to get a lens with a level of quality enough. But in that case, it is finished this period. I mean, this lens is very good, wide open. You can see by yourself. It's really sharp, you know. It's you don't have a lose of contrast. That's why we can play with the contrast by using the stop, which is something very specific.
Would there be a way of changing the contrast without changing the diaphragm?
You can put diffusion, but most of the time all the diffusions that we put in front of the lens are very difficult to control. And from one lens to the other, if you're on the short lens, you will have the feeling that you have not enough. And when you go to the long lens with the same filter, you have the feeling you are too strong. You see? In that case, I mean, it's a question of spirit. You decide that for this film you will use this level of contrast with a lens, you know, with this level of resolution and contrast. You know, it's your choice. Then you give a phone call to the rental company, organize me all the sets on the effect number 3, let's say, for the bibliothèque. And then when you arrive, everything has been mounted, 15 minutes for a lens, and you make your test. You can make a complementary with front diffusion in some case or whatever and play with the system. You know, you are not locked to. The point is to have something which is exactly with the same effect at any focal length, any stop, any focus point. Everything is about that. Just to make it easy, you know. In my period, as I was telling you, I mean to use a tram, how do you call it, a net in English, but it was a big deal. The effect is really beautiful on the skins, you know, and but the problem is that you don't have the same effect when you change the focal length and when you close the iris, and when you change the map, you can see, as I show you, you can see the map. It's a big deal. So we had really a choreography, quite complicated, saying, okay, on the short lens, 18, 21, 24, 32, we will use in the rear, because when you have a lot of depth of fields, you have a small depth of focus. You know that. It's a big deal. That is to say, when you want to calibrate a lens on a camera, you do it on the short lens. The shorter is the most critical. You see? So that is to say that the nets that you are putting into the frame is when you are in the rear, so short lens, the depth of focus, which is the opposite of the depth of fields, it is close to the sensor, is very, very short. So as soon as you move a little bit, you will not be calibrated, and if you put a net, you will see it.
Yeah, you can see it.
Okay? On a long lens, you have a lot, small depth of field. As you know, it's difficult to make the focus because it's critical, but you have a lot of depth of field. You have a lot of depth of focus. It is the opposite, a system reverse, you know. So when it's a long lens, very short, very critical depth of field, very long depth of focus. That is to say, everything that you put inside is sharp, which is such a big, on very long lens, for example, you can take it off from the mount a little bit, take it off, it's still in focus, you see? But the depth of field is very critical, as we know, difficult to make the focus. But everything that you put inside will be sharp. So if you put your net on a long lens in the rear, you will see perfectly all the crosses of the you see how we can play. So that's why we were using on long lens, we are using in front, and in the short lens in rear. Exactly.
But is there any long lens here that has the net in front?
Sorry?
Is there anyone here that has the net?
No, because you know, we know everybody can test it at any time.
Yeah,
what is interesting is to be at this focal point because it's steady, you know, and the effect is the same. It's particular, we are always looking for the diffusion about the skin on a close-up and so on. But what is very interesting, it is on the white shots. Most of the time, the white shots are boring. Don't you think so? It's okay. You have the details. It's quite a little bit contrasty.
future.